Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast. My name is Coach Scott. I'll be your host today. It is Friday, September 3rd. I know it's been a while since we've done a podcast. It is, we've had some little impediments here and there, but we are back on track today. Glad to be back, and thank you for listening. Thanks for coming back. The last podcast we did, we talked to Rhiannon Berry. I actually got some really great feedback on that interview, on that podcast. A great interview. She was the captain of the aid station at the end of River Road at Ironman Lake Placid. Me and my daughter Sam volunteered there, had a great time, a really wonderful experience, and we're looking forward to going back. And we talked to Rhiannon a lot about that, and and hopefully she'll come back next year, and we'll bring her back again. Again, I got a lot of great feedback on that. It was a crazy day. It was a really cool experience to be a part of, and I definitely recommend volunteering at this or any other races that are in your area. Very gratifying day, for sure. Hardworking too. Other than that, I think, I wanted to talk today a little bit about Ironman Maine 70.3. This was a race that I did over the past weekend, last Sunday. This morning, I just took off the Ironman bracelet. We talked about that on the podcast. What is the appropriate time to leave your Ironman bracelet? Well, for a 70.3 relay, 6 days. I got this bracelet, put it on Saturday of last week before the race, and I cut it this morning, and 6 days for me, appropriate time for a relay 70.3. Why were we doing this race? Why was I doing this race? Last year, we were supposed to do the relay at Ironman Lake Placid, the 70.3 in September. COVID happened, the race got canceled, and they didn't reschedule. Unlike a lot of other races, they didn't just say, all right, you missed 2020's race, so you'll do 2021. Unfortunately, this year, they just canceled that race altogether. Now, they left Ironman Lake Placid the full. And look, Ironman has a very interesting and sort of, mystical relationship with the town of Lake Placid. This is a race that has been there for over 20 years now in terms of the full, and they just go together. There's been some struggles with the contract, I know, lately, and I know that they renewed the contract for at least one more year, but I think it came up this year, and they just renewed it for one more year. So there will be an Ironman Lake Placid 2021, but beyond that is still in question. And probably one of the reasons why they canceled the 70.3 entirely for this year, which left us kind of, thinking, what are we going to do? Now, Ironman doesn't give you refunds. They're not into refunding. Yeah, we all know. But, they do offer you deferrals to another race. And we looked at it logistically, and we tried to pick one that we'd all be able to go to, and Maine was the one that we chose. It just seemed like the one that we could all get to logistically and be there and meet up. Now, the differences of Placid and Maine, they're not, obviously, other than the mystique of Lake Placid, and I think Maine has been there for a few years. I think it was a 70.3 that Ironman bought from another triathlon company, and they've turned into an Ironman branded event. I know that I went up there 2 years ago in 2019 to watch my friends Joe Bartlett and Jim Simcoe do the race. And, I did like the venue. It's a little bit touristy. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit Jersey Shore kind of feel. But it was nice. We felt at home there. We felt comfortable, and the race itself was great. Now, the differences again between Lake Placid and Maine for me, Maine's about a half an hour less of a drive. So it was a shorter drive. Now for Jacob and Matt, it was actually a 2-hour addition to their drive. So they had to sit in the car a little bit longer. But they got me back in another way, which was the other sort of major things when I think you compare location to location, is you look at the terrain for the actual race itself. And Matt and Jacob, they had a pretty tough race ahead of them in Lake Placid. Lake Placid's in the middle of Adirondack Mountains. I say Madirondack. The Adirondack Mountains, very hilly, a lot of climbs on the bike, a lot of steep hills on the run. Really just kind of one long set of steep hills going into town on the run. And it's challenging. Those hills make those courses challenging. Maine is not completely void of hills. There is some hills, but it is not Lake Placid. So for them, a little bit more friendly race, a little bit more comfortable being out there. Obviously, you can still choose to give as much effort as you can, but the terrain is certainly friendlier in Maine. For me, doing the swim, not so much. In Ironman Lake Placid, they do the swim in Mirror Lake. And Mirror Lake is called Mirror Lake for a reason. It just looks like glass. It looks like a mirror. It's typically very calm and serene. Visibility in the lake is very high. You can see, not only can you see your hand in front of your face, but you can see other swimmers swimming around. It has to be one of the more pristine swims on the Ironman circuit. Maine is essentially the Atlantic Ocean. It's actually called Saco Bay, which if you look at a map, I don't see the bay really happening too much. It's not that distinctive, but there is, I guess, a little bit of a bay type of thing that's there. But in essence, you're swimming in the Atlantic Ocean. I've never done an ocean swim before. I've done a few choppy swims, but I knew this was going to be something different. I don't necessarily, not that I don't but I would definitely prefer freshwater over brackish water. I'm not a big fan of the taste of salt water. I think I swallowed half the ocean on Sunday. So in essence, for me, yes, the half hour less drive was nice, but the swim was going to be more challenging, kind of the reverse that Jacob and Matt had. But again, we went after this race, and I think we were all kind of in good shape for it. We knew what to expect out of one another. We knew what to expect out of ourselves. And really, that's kind of where it was. We wanted each individual to sort of have a good day. Instead of just everyone going at all three events, this one gave you the opportunity to focus on your event and just have a good day doing one thing. And I think that was kind of a unique aspect of going to an Ironman race for me and being able to focus on those one things, that one thing. There is a great atmosphere up in Maine. Jacob brought his husband, Mark. We went out to lunch on Saturday, had a good time at lunch. Matt brought his family, his wife, Val, and his kids. And I met them and hung out with them when Matt did the full in Lake Placid. So it was really kind of a nice family atmosphere there. Got to tell you, you guys probably hear my voice. It's a little raspy today. I've been sick all week. This is really the first day that I've been able to talk very well. But I was getting I was not feeling 100% going into this race. And so I kind of met the guys, we registered. And then Saturday, I had lunch with Mark and Jacob. And then I went to the hotel, and I just kind of slept in all day, trying to drink some water. The one good thing about just doing the swim, you really don't need to worry too much about hydration, nutrition, fueling, and that kind of thing. You don't have to worry about being out there for 6-7 hours of the day. You just need to do your job, get through that swim. My swim in Musselman, which was only 2 months before, was 48 minutes in what I thought was very challenging water there. Now I was going to the Atlantic Ocean. And, I think basically over the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to focus a little bit more on swim, going to the pool a little bit more often. And so I would feel a little bit more confident going in the water and hopefully improve on that 48-minute time from Musselman. And, Matt and Jacob also focusing on their one events. Now, Matt went after me. He went onto the bike, and I got to tell you, he crushed it. So his goal was to break 3 hours, and he did that in amazing fashion. I think he was under 250. He averaged over 20 miles an hour on the bike, which was amazing. Matt did a really great job. Congratulations, Matt. Great race. Jacob too. Jacob went out. His PR on a half marathon was something like 2:26, and he broke that by over 15 minutes. He had a really great race. Wearing some insane lobster shorts that I think some of his coworkers gave him, and they told him he had to wear. I'll tell you, if it makes you that much faster, I'm in the lobster shorts next year. I don't mind. I'll put them on if they if they make you run faster. Also, amazing job. Jacob actually finished the race at 12.5 miles on his Garmin and decided to just run another half a mile, and he did that, which I thought was incredible. Not many people get to the finish of an Ironman 70.3 and then keep going. So great job there. When it came to me, in my swim, there was a lot going on, and we'll get into a little bit more detail about the swim, being as I was there for the whole time. I wasn't out with Matt on the bike the whole time, or out with Jacob on the run the whole time, but I was in the water the whole time, fairly confident. I think the one thing that I kind of was joking around about on our Facebook page and with a few other things, and I would say this, my concern rate, my rate of concern was not zero. Was you go into something like the Atlantic Ocean and, it's a big body of water, and somewhere in there, sharks live. Somewhere in all those miles, there's going to be sharks. I want to thank the internet for putting up a shark tracker. You can go to Google and type in shark tracker, and there you'll see all these little dots of where, they've tagged sharks. And then they let them out in the water, and the GPS pings, and they get all these little pings, so they know where the sharks have gone. And not so far from where we were was a ping, a couple miles offshore probably, from a shark they named Freya. Freya is an 11.5 foot great white, seen just, I think, was it Cape Elizabeth? Something like that. Cape Elizabeth, I think. Seen just off the coast there. With the GPS pinged not more than a week before our race was taking place. So I do want to thank the shark tracker for making me a little bit nervous. I mean, listen, here's the deal. You're going out there with about 2,000 other people all dressed like seals. But look, so number one, safety in numbers, right? If someone gets bit by a shark, you got good odds. It's not going to be you. There are some boats out there. There was a helicopter up there. I don't know if it was a helicopter just like trying to just film the event or monitor the event, or if they're actually kind of patrolling, looking for sharks. I don't know. By the time race day happened, though, it was kind of out of my mind. It really was. It didn't really kind of register in training and thinking about it and kind of leading up to race day. The factor of fear was not zero. It was somewhere a little bit north of that. But not anywhere that I would think of about canceling the race altogether because I was afraid of sharks. It was more like, can you imagine you're just swimming in the water? We're human. We don't have, we're not meant to be out there. If the shark comes, you're kind of defenseless and it's not in your control. And that's the only reason. It's like, I don't like being in situations where I'm not in control. And that sort of is, like being on an airplane. I know it's safe. I know, chances are you're going to be fine, but you got no control. That plane starts going down. You just got no, similar to the shark. It's up to the shark. If he wants to eat you, he's going to eat you. You can try to scrape his eyes out or something. I don't know, but those jaws are pretty strong. So, but on race day, I got to say, it was not, and it wasn't in the forefront of my mind anymore. I thought that it might be kind of just hanging around there, but it was gone. It was gone. The night before I slept poorly, to be honest. I was up and down every 20 minutes. Again, I wasn't feeling so hot. It's one of those things, I don't want to go to sleep because I know as soon as I go to sleep, once I close my eyes, I'm going to wake up and then I got to go swim. So it's almost like I want to delay it as much. I don't know why. And then every time I wake up, the first thing I do is check the watch to see, all right, how much more can I sleep until I got to get up and start getting moving. The swim started pretty early. Typically these swims I know in Lake Placid, they started at 6:30. This was more like 5:30. The pros I think went out at 5:45. So it had to be there really early. Set my alarm really early. Again, it's nice not having to deal with the bike. I didn't have to, prep my bike or make sure I had all my run sneakers out or anything like that. I just went with my wetsuit, had my stuff all ready. I had a bag, plopped it down. And the next thing I knew, I was online waiting for the race to start. I did kind of wade into the water to try to get my wetsuit a little bit wet. I'll be honest, it didn't really have any effect. In the past, I feel like I've done that before. And sometimes when I do that, it kind of alleviates some of that initial pressure that you feel when that wetsuit sort of constricts on you when you first get in the water. I did have that feeling today. It didn't alleviate, on Sunday. It didn't alleviate that. So just one little note, I guess. But I was going into this swim. I had swam a 48-minute swim in Muscleman. I wanted to improve on that. So my goal naturally was I took it down to 45 minutes. That was my goal, 45 minutes. Let's see if we can get through it. My pool swims recently, when I swim 1,000 yards-ish or more, which is about half the distance of this race, my pace was like a 2:05. And so my other thought was maybe I can swim a 2:05. It's a race day. Sometimes you get that little kick of adrenaline. And if I have a good swim and the water's calm and I feel good out there, because I didn't know how it was going to feel. I've never swam in the ocean before. Literally. I mean, I've been in the ocean. When you're a kid, you play in the ocean, body surf, do whatever. When you're an adult, you sit there with a Mai Tai or pina colada, and you just chat with people, and maybe you go out just deep enough so you have to kind of tread water. But I've never done any kind of structured swimming in the ocean, and certainly not 1.2 miles. I wasn't super intimidated, to be honest. I wasn't that fearful of it. I was actually, come race day, I was almost excited about it. I really was. I was really excited about it. But my A goal was a 2:05 pace. My B goal, which was I knew was more realistic, was to get through 45 minutes. C goal was just make sure you get through this swim so that you can hand off the timing chip to Matt, so I don't screw up their races for whatever reason and miss the cutoff, or DQ myself so that they don't get the chance to race today. That would have been horrible. So A, B, C in that order. The gun went off. I went into the water, and look, it was exactly what I expected. The waves are coming in, and you got to kind of get through that wave line, right? You have to get through that wave line and kind of make it to a point and to get to that wave line, you do have to get through some deep water. So it wasn't like you can run in and dive, because you don't even know. Maybe the water is low when you dive in. You crack your head on the ground, but. Anyway, we ran in the water. I waded through sort of like the heavier, the bigger, heavier waves. And once I got to a point where I felt comfortable enough to swim, I do like to try to get swimming as soon as possible. You walk very slow in the water. So you want to try to get swimming as soon as possible. So as soon as I felt comfortable enough that I was beyond the point where those waves were really battering me, I started swimming. And I got to tell you, a lot of people were waiting a long time before they started swimming. It was very congested in the very beginning of the swim. We went out, and I got to tell you, I knew the wetsuit constricted. I felt really, I knew I kind of hyperventilate in the beginning. It was challenging. I was just like, all right, stick with it. Again, the same thing I did in Muscle Man. Stick with it. That feeling is going to go away, and then you can try to find your groove. And look, I'm one of those people. I do a lot of my swimming in the pool. There is a very big difference between swimming in a pool and swimming in open water. And really, the more difficult the water is, the more chop, the more current. You could even say the brackishness of the water. The more challenging, the more things that the nature sort of throws at you, the more unlike a pool swim it will be. If you train in the pool, you're not going to be ready for race day 100%. So it's nice to get some open water swimming in during training if you can. And a lot of my clients, they do, which is good for you guys. You should. You just get a little bit more used to it. Now, what that means for me is that when I'm out there, it is almost a constant battle of trying to lose my open water, my open water kind of choppiness with my stroke and that unsettledness, and try to make my open water swim as much like my pool swim as possible. Does that make sense? It's a battle of trying to get myself into like, all right, you're in the pool, you're not in the open water. And when the water's going up and down constantly, it's a little strange. It makes things a little bit more challenging. And I tell you, one of the things, and also there's the other challenge is more swimmers, right? It was crowded out there. It was crowded out there in the water on Sunday. A lot of times what I do in order to alleviate that is I try to swim wide on the course. So if the course is going straight this way, I'll swim a little bit out that way. And it makes you swim a little bit longer distance. But I've tried swimming on the inside before, and the traffic is just too much. And I spend more time trying to weave through traffic and deal with traffic and avoid being kicked. A lot of energy wasted that can be used to swim faster. So I like to swim wide. The problem with this was there was really no wide. People were kind of just all over the place. They were just everywhere. And the course delineation was a little strange because the current kept pushing you in one way or another. And, the other thing that is sighting. Now, this course went out. It wasn't like a half mile out and then a half mile back. It was out and then along over and then down. which I kind of appreciated. Because when you go out on that first out portion, there's nothing to sight except the buoys. There was a boat out there that I tried to sight off of, but it felt like it kept moving. I couldn't tell. And, you don't know when you're out there. Is that boat trying to rescue somebody? And if they've moved, you're way off course. Who knows, I did feel like I felt like I was going all over the course. Left, right, left, right, left, right. We call it when we play golf, we call it military golf. If you hit it to the left and the right, and the left military golf, left, right, left, right. So it's like military swim, left, right, left, right. There was no outside because people were just all over. They were going off course so easily. It's multiple times I would have someone cut. I'd be going straight, and I have someone cut me off, going way to the left. And then the worst part is once they realize how far off course they are, then they correct and they come across again way to the right. And it's like, man, it gets frustrating sometimes when you're out there, but it made the swim really challenging. It really was. I couldn't swim wide. I couldn't really I didn't feel comfortable sighting. When you're going out, there's no horizon. All it is horizon. There's no trees. There's no landline. There's no houses. There's nothing else like sort of like a Lake Placid situation where you could find something on the beach that you can aim for. Right? There's just horizon, and not only that, but it's horizon is kind of going like this. The buoys. Now, the problem with one of the things that I didn't expect that now I've learned is you see the buoy on one stroke, and then you try to sight the next stroke. And because you're on an up wave and you're looking a little bit higher and the buoy is on the other side of that wave, it's gone. It disappears from your sight. So it's very difficult to kind of maintain. You kind of you drive yourself mad if you look every single stroke. I tried my best to sight. It was certainly more of a challenge than I expected out there. And, I again, similar to Muscleman, I never quite felt comfortable out there. And I never felt 100% comfortable in the water. I went out, and then I did the over part, and I felt, it's funny, we got about halfway through, and I think it is what it is. The first half of the course, the buoys were yellow. And then at some point, they turn orange. And my guess is it's the halfway point. My guess is that they at the halfway point through that they turn orange. So when I got to that first orange buoy, I thought it was red, and red means that you would turn and you go straight for home. But I looked and I could tell no one was turning, and then I realized that I was only halfway through the course and I still had to go another probably 4 orange buoys before hitting the red one and making that left turn in. Again, tough sighting. By the time I made the final left and I was going into shore, I was hoping that, that I could really, that I could really hit the jets and I could really kind of focus on pulling hard and being aerodynamic and really speeding in with the current on that last leg of the swim. That was my mindset when I started the race, but when I actually got there in real life, I was exhausted. I was mentally taxed. My body was just like, I drank so much salt water by then. I was just cooked. And at that point, it became a survival swim. So I looked, and the one good thing about going towards the beach, much easier to sight. It's all, you could see the whole sand line, and then right in the middle was a big dark spot, which is where all the swimmers are coming out and all the volunteers are, the timing mats, all that stuff. So there was a big blotch on the beach. Just swim towards that, which was great. It was finally nice to have something to sight, to shoot for. Now, for some reason, I felt like that last portion of the swim, I was zigzagging all over. You could see on my Garmin, when I looked at my Garmin, I really thought you were going to see almost an accordion-like swim. But it was much more straight than I expected. And actually, it was more straight until the very last leg, which I thought was going to be straight, and then was more jagged. So I was kind of a little bit less consistent on that the last leg. But I went into sort of survival mode. I didn't know what to expect to getting out of that water, guys. I knew, I kind of felt like I felt in Muscleman, but I did feel like I was slower. I felt like I was a slower swimmer. I felt like there was a couple points where I even just stopped to try to get my bearings because I wasn't 100% sure where I was. And then you had to restart. I know that takes some time. I felt like sort of towards the end that I had nothing left and I couldn't really focus on getting any speed. I was just trying to travel, right? Travel closer to that big dark spot on the beach. Eventually I made it there. I got out and I looked at my watch and I'm thinking, all right, you made it. At least you made it. And my watch said 43 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, my official time, I don't know when I crossed the mat. It was under 45 minutes. So yes, I did follow that. I did break that goal or reach that goal, achieve that goal of breaking 45 minutes. It felt really good. Especially being out there and not thinking I was anywhere close to that. I had no idea. And I guess, if I really wanted to, I could have stopped one of those times when I kind of stopped to get my bearings. I could have looked at my watch just to see how I was doing. But I was really happy with my time. It's just one of those days where you felt bad, but the result was good. So I'll take it. And I was able to kind of get my bearings walking up the beach. And by the time I got to the top, I was able to run in from there and get into the transition area where I just handed off my timing chip to Matt. And he was on his way to crush his bike, and then Jacob on his way to crush his run. And really, I got to tell you, a great venue for a race. After the race too, I went back to my hotel. I showered. I got changed and I made it back in plenty of time. And my hotel was a good 8 to 10 miles away from the venue. So I drove back to the hotel, showered, got dressed. I checked out of the hotel. I came back just in time. Not even just in time. I had plenty of time left until Matt got back on the bike. And then I was able to kind of hang out with Matt for a couple hours while Jacob was out on the run. Really had a great time. I tell you, if it wasn't for I had fun every single moment. That swim is challenging. And if I had to choose, I probably wouldn't choose that race again simply for the swim. I didn't really, I would rather swim in a clear lake. I don't mind swimming in Chattanooga because it's supposed to be like a downstream swim and it's not very challenging. It's supposed to be very swimmer friendly. We'll see how it is when we get there. But, if I can avoid brackish water, if I can avoid ocean, I would love to avoid that in the future. But I do enjoy Maine. I did like the race. I thought they did a really good job. I tell you, the post-race food, It was like cold cut sandwiches that like your mom would make you for school lunch, like with not enough meat on it, like 2 slices of ham, like thin sliced ham. And you're like, Ma, like, can you put some meat in the sandwich? Like, what is it, a bread sandwich? Like, I don't want a bread sandwich. I want meat. Get some meat. But the food was, but other than that, I mean, really a great event. Easy to travel around Maine, easy to kind of get around. I prepaid for parking, which was ridiculously expensive, but it was worth it. And, I got a lot of steps in that day, walking around about 20,000 steps, which is really good. I got home. I got to tell you, felt good. We got our medals. I had a really great time. I do want to thank Matt. I want to thank Jacob for being there. Well, I'm almost close to 30 minutes here. I want to cut it soon. And congratulations, both of you, on the finish. Really had a great time. And Jacob's husband, Mark, and Matt's wife, Val, and your kids. Those kids have been troopers, man, traveling around the country with you to all these races. But it was really good. Really good to see you guys. Had a really great time. And, now, I have a couple of marathons on my schedule. I don't know how I'm going to do it. This week I've done no training because I haven't been feeling well. Actually, I got through this race and I got home and I got sicker. I was supposed to go to New York this week and didn't travel because I woke up feeling awful. I haven't had a voice since Sunday. It just came back today, so I'm happy with that. But, I had to skip over Thursday night trivia ride because I couldn't talk. But that will be back on Wednesday. Next Thursday. Also, next Wednesday, we're going to have a USA Triathlon Zwift ride. I'll be leading. We're going to be doing our last minute, fast minute workout. We did that about 6 months ago. We'll be doing it again. Come and join us on Zwift. It's an event on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Would love to see a lot of people there. That would be really good to get some good support there. And that's all I got for you today. Again, I'm sorry that we haven't done a podcast in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I do appreciate your support. If you want to support the show, check out patreon.com/ordinary marathoner. Become a patron, get your name listed on the scroll that's going to come in about 30 seconds. And what's going to last longer, my voice or the podcast? Until after I tell you every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.